I think we should start the meeting. And welcome. We're calling the meeting to order, 5:31. Do we have, we have to go into closed session, but that's when it's, okay. Do we have an approval of the agenda? And given that Olivia has a short time with us, I'm going to make a suggestion that we rearrange the agenda and move the action items up to after closed session report out so that we can
Can I
have.
interrupt you for just a sec? Can we just do a roll call vote?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sure.
Yep. All right.
Okay, so we have, is Javier here? No. Larry?
No.
No. Roberto?
Present.
Olivia?
Present.
Hersham?
Present.
And myself, Mary, is present, so we do have a quorum. Okay, so now we'll go on to the approval of the agenda. And as Olivia will be leaving early, I'd like to rearrange the agenda a little bit, bring up the action items right after our closed session report out.
Thank you.
I think that's the only thing. Is there anything else that anybody, any other board member has? And if not, can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the change so stated?
Motion to approve.
And a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. We're up to item C, introduction of guests or attendees. Raquel, would you like to start?
Hi, my name is Raquel Humphrey. I'm the Parent Engagement Coordinator at SABA. This is my 9th year and I am taking over Daniel's spot. So
Great.
nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you as well. And we have a Dr. Mansfield on, and we have School Scout, which I'm not sure. I don't know if you two want to introduce yourselves. Oh, and we have DMS, which is there. Okay. So let's just make a record of who is here in the meeting. And then this is the time for public comments. So any one of our public attendees can make comments on items that are not on the agenda. You generally have about 3 minutes per item, 20 minutes in max. Do we have any of our attendees wanting to make public comment? Nope, seeing none. We are going to move on to our closed session. So we will come out of closed session and report out. But before we go in, I think, do we ever say anything like, okay, on the agenda, we have these cases and this is what we're going to be reporting on. And we just want the public to know that.
That is correct.
And if there's no comment, we are going to close 5:35 and go into closed session and be back afterwards. Okay, we will see the public shortly.
Just have this.
Okay. So what do you normally do during this time then?
I just sit patiently, let whoever wants to come in, and if anybody joins, we just mention, hey, we're in, the board is in closed session at the moment. Just stick around here and we'll join back when everybody's back together. But I mean, it's also safe for you to, mute, turn your camera off,
Okay.
take a break, and just monitor. That's pretty much what I do.
Okay. And then note anybody who came in late in the attendance.
Yeah. I try to note it, especially if there's a board member that joins us like, a bit late, note it at the top of the minutes where we take attendance, note the time that they joined.
Okay.
And then I also do it in the agenda item. So right now we're technically in agenda item 2, right? Because we're in closed session.
Sure.
So if somebody were to join, I'd put in the notes, board member, whatever the name is, haven't joined at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then does normally the guests who are on here just wait during the closed session as well?
Yeah, because that way, there's no confusion as to where any guests have to go.
Okay. All right.
Hi, Paul.
Hi, Daniel. How you
Good
doing?
to see you.
Good to see you too. Hope all is well.
All
they're
is well. Yeah.
in closed session right now.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have the financials ready, but I don't know if you guys are going to share them or I will when it's my turn. So I'll just wait inside.
Okay. It might be a bit more of a delay than we normally would have. The board, since we're not going to have quorum for long, so we move the action items first, and I think the DMU section is right before in reports, right before action items, so it's going to follow action items, so might be a little bit more of a wait.
No worries. Whatever you guys need from me, I'll just be here.
I'm in the same boat. I'm here.
Ken's going to join too to watch the board report and just get experience watching these. So
Great.
Hey, Daniel.
I can.
Hey, good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
Mm.
Are you in my office?
Yeah. Are you, how's your new job?
A lot to take in for one day, but I'm still here. It's good.
You got it.
Raquel, the joke is, hey, Daniel left his office and his position. Ken from DMS is just gonna go slide in, take my role, take my office. But
Yeah.
then Paul still wants him, to support other schools too. So I told him a compromise is to let him do that, but make sure he uses the DMS background while he's in my office.
There you go.
well, we're certainly here to support Josh as best we can during the transition for him. So we get it. It happens. So
yeah. Well, I appreciate that.
Yep.
I want to
No
make sure
problem.
I want to make sure Saba's in good hands.
We'll take care of Saba.
Raquel, in the minutes document,
Yeah.
I'm right where we had the most recent vote for the approval of the agenda.
Yeah.
I am taking out the board members' names who are not here.
Okay. And then putting that they're absent.
No, because the absent, like pretty much by the time you do any of the agenda items below where I have everybody's name listed, but we really only need to record the yes or no votes of the board members who are here. So I'm just going to delete the ones who are not here in that section. Watch. Yeah. 1, 2. No Jones. Okay.
Yeah, Jones is out today. That's what Josh told me.
Okay. So this one is it. To make it easier for us.
Yeah.
I'm going to copy this and just paste it onto the other sections below where we have the votes.
Okay.
And that way, the less going back and forth.
Yeah, less going back and forth.
Where is it? So then I will let you, for the next few votes, I will let you record here. and pretty much just need to pay close attention to who motions to approves and who seconds.
Mhm.
Just change the name and then unhighlight. That way you know you took care of that one already.
Yeah. And then that is under 6 for action items.
Yes. It's going to be a little funky because the board just moved to move the action items up.
Yeah. So we're kind of moving around on the agenda.
Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So anybody who says aye, then we put, and if it's approved unanimously, then we leave that there.
Mhm.
How long do the closed sessions normally last? Does it just depend on how many items are to discuss?
It depends on the number of items. It depends on the situation at hand. This one, I think, is anyone's guess.
Mhm.
Hopefully it's pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like there's what, 4 things on there?
Oh, there are 4 things.
I think. Am I reading it right or am I not? Is it the spending plan, school safety plan?
Oh, that's the action. That's the action items.
Mm.
So that's the action items that we'll take care of when they come back from closed session. But
Mm.
closed
Like-
session has 2 student discipline cases.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
didn't look like it was big.
No.
Yeah, I got my diploma in the mail yesterday.
No way. Congratulations.
Thank you. You know, so excited. I was like, yay,
Do
finally.
you have a frame? Do you have a frame ready for it and everything?
Not yet. They sent it in like one of those weird high school, like the
Yeah.
ones that we give to the kids. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna put it with my UCSC one though, just because to put them together.
Oh, that's nice.
Mhm. Until I get my ed doc or something, then I'll have to
There
get
you go. Save a special spot in the wall for that.
Uh-huh. Oh, they're back.
Awesome. So then, Raquel, let's just make sure to note in the board section or part of the agenda, just note the time that we reconvene.
Okay. So 5:45.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll put it right here in section 3.
In section 3. Okay. There it is. Okay.
And then if there's any public comment, we'll note it there. If not, we'll
Mhm.
Okay, we are all back and I am going to report out from closed session. First on the item A under closed session, the board approved the stipulated expulsion agreement regarding confidential student discipline matter number 08182022. The board voted unanimously. On closed session item B, the board approved the stipulated expulsion agreement regarding confidential student discipline matter, order number 08192022. The board voted unanimously. So now we are going on to our action items since that was moved up. So we will start with the EPA spending.
Okay. Do we want to do the action items first or the consent agenda first?
Either or, we can
Okay.
get both out of the way.
Okay,
Although-
sure.
What's
Um,
that? I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, well, we can go into the EPA. Okay, so the EPA is the Education Protection Account. This was created in 2012 with the idea of supporting schools. It needs 100% of it needs to be spent not on administrative costs towards schools. For this school year, SABA received excuse me, let me look at this again.
1,080,000.
820,506.
Well, that was for 2021.
Yeah. Oh yeah, excuse me, 1,080,000 for 21-22. My apologies. And 100% of that was spent on staff salaries. And this is guaranteed to all LEAs through Article 6 of the California Constitution. So I am asking for the SEBA Board of Directors to approve our allocation of our EPA expenditures for the 22-23 school year, which are in the amount of $691,438.
Do we have any questions?
My comment for this, as a member of the public, I believe this is for the 21-22 school year, as requested by the auditors. So they want us to approve. We need to approve this and put it on our website as a part of our 21-22 school year.
Correct. Any questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion and a second, please?
I'll go ahead and motion.
Thank you,
Second.
Olivia. Thank you, Roberto. And let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. No abstentions. Motion passes. Okay, we are on now to comprehensive school safety plan.
Okay, the comprehensive school safety plan has to be submitted by every LEA in California and in Santa Cruz County to the Santa Cruz County Office of Education annually, usually in the spring and March. SEBA worked on this over the summer since it's a safety plan that applies to all of our students and staff currently. So we kind of got a head start on it. But the idea is to basically assess school crime committed on school campuses, take a look at our school child abuse reporting procedures, disaster preparedness, how we performed in suspensions and expulsions from the previous year, procedures to notify teachers of dangerous pupils, reviewing our discrimination and harassment policies, dress code, procedures for ingress and egress, which has been a topic of conversation with our zoning, policies to maintain a safe and orderly environment for our school discipline, and hate crime reporting procedures. And so SEBA went through this for this school year, basically adjusted the staff members in their different roles for our crisis team, and then also updated our suspension and expulsion table. We had a higher number of suspensions and expulsions than previous years last school year, including one incident that involved a knife. And so that's reported on here. And then I also included in this agenda item our emergency drill slides that go out in a morning email from our Director of Human Resources. And we practice these drills once quarterly, and the dates that we're practicing them for this school year are outlined in the safety plan. And then finally, just to wrap up here, there is a public component, which is part 1. And then part 2 is the internal components that are used internally.
And the public didn't see that internal component, correct, Josh?
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Don't talk all at once, please. If no comments or questions or concerns or changes, can I get a motion and a second, please?
No motion.
Thank you, Gershom. And a second?
I'll go ahead and second that.
Thank you, Olivia. All in favor? Aye. Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. We are now on to item C, our board bylaws.
Okay. So here, we're making a 9-word change to our board bylaws as our departing Director of Operations and Finance is leaving us, and he also served as the Chief Financial Officer for the SEBA Public Schools Board of Directors. And in that role, he needed to render to the president, which was me, an account of all transactions made on behalf of the corporation, which is Saba Public Schools. And now I will be taking over that role as the Chief Financial Officer, and I will be reporting to the board. So this is an update to our bylaws to reflect the fact that I will now be in the role of president of our 501c3 public corporation, as well as the CFO in the interim until we find a new position for the Director of Operations and Finance and the CFO.
Okay, so it's just the temporary until you, and then you'll bring it back again at that point.
That is correct.
Okay. Any questions? Comments?
You just answered the one I had, which it was gonna be a temporary thing.
Mhm. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, can I get a motion in a second, please?
Motion.
Thank you, Roberto.
I'll
And
second that.
thank you, Olivia. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you. Okay, we are on to now item D, board positions.
So we update this annually. Daniel Ornelas, our departing Director of Finance and Operations, was both the Secretary and CFO for Saba Public Schools. We will now have Raquel Arenas Humphrey, if you all approve, as the Secretary for the Board of Saba Public Schools. And then, as mentioned earlier, we adjusted the bylaws, and now this will officially make me the Chief Financial Officer until a replacement for Daniel is identified.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, can I get a motion in a second, please?
All motion. I'll
And
go
a
ahead and second
second.
that.
Thank you, Olivia. All in favor? Aye.
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 We are on to the Board of Directors meeting calendar.
Okay, so this is a draft calendar for the 2023 calendar year. For those of us that work in schools, we all think in school years. So right now we're in 22-23. We have historically kept our board calendars on a traditional calendar year. So we try to prepare the 2023 calendar year set of meetings in advance. So what you'll see in this meeting is, unless it's a holiday, the first Tuesday of every month we'll continue to have that meeting, our board meeting at 5:30 p.m. And it also outlines when the notices will be posted on our front door as well as on our website. And then the key agenda items will be I briefly outlined on this draft schedule of meetings. So I am requesting the Saba Board of Directors to approve this 2023 schedule of meetings.
Any questions?
I will make only a comment that there are 2 board meetings in June, one to have the review of the LCAP and budget, and the second one for the approval.
Josh, I have a question. I see that the board meetings will be held at SEBA. Is that something that we're moving away from Zoom, or just to clarify?
Great question. So all the board meetings are always held both on Zoom and in person. And so I'm here, the door is open, and anyone who would like to join us here in person can. People can also join us via Zoom.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions? Can I get a motion in a second, please?
Motion.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, now we are on to reports. EMS.
Make a suggestion
Sure.
to do the consent agenda while Olivia is still with us.
Absolutely.
Great.
So we have 3 items on the consent agenda: warrants, the minutes, and the approval of the consent agenda. Do we have any changes or questions to any of that? And if not, a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Thank you, Olivia. And a second? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Gershom. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, consent is done. So now we'll go on to the reports.
Okay.
Those are all the action items?
Those are all the action items. Yes, Olivia.
Okay, so I'll be here for a few more minutes, so
Great, thank you.
thank you.
It's all yours, Josh.
Okay, so our first report is our DMS monthly update, outlining our financials through August. And I believe we have Paul on the line from DMS to walk us through that. I'm going to go ahead and just share my screen so we can follow along. It also is attached to the agenda.
Thanks, Josh.
Yep.
Good evening, board.
Good evening.
So we're going to present here the financials through August. It is 2 months into the school year. July tends to be very quiet, so there's not going to be a lot of meat and potatoes in this. It's early in the year, so there's not going to be any significant trends to highlight or items that we feel that would cause any concern. So if we scroll, you can see we have a summarized original budget versus actuals through August. Revenues are extremely light. We always expect that. Your county in particular tends to be just a little slower on LCFF for some reason. And I do note, and I will note, that we received $370,000 just recently in the last week or two, sometime in September. That would be $170,000 for the July LCFF, and I think $208,000 of federal CARES Act money. So that's the beginning. We'll start to see revenues really flow November, December, and then the second half of the year is when a lot of federal monies and facility grants and other grants are paid. So there's nothing of concern here. SABA is also very cash strong, so that doesn't pose any issues. Expenditures as well. The one area that we can kind of trend early throughout the year would be comp and benefits. You can see teachers are at 17%. We're 17% through the year. Smack dab right where you'd expect to be. A lot of classified people. Sometimes you have hourly that come in when the school year starts, so can lag a little. But overall, those areas should trend pretty similar to where you are in the school year. Books and supplies tend to be front loaded. That I expect to see heavier. So really what you're seeing right now is exactly where I would expect SABA to be. If we go down to the more detailed view, there's where you can see the few revenues that have come in. That should start to expand more in the next board report. And as well as you can look at teacher comp down below. The one area that I would just say when we get to first interim, after we do the October 31 actuals, we will do a first of 2 budget revisions for the year. Nothing in comp and benefits that's out of the ordinary at this point. Everything is really where I'd expect it to be. We spent a little more on textbooks and curriculum than what was budgeted. You can look into that to see, and that is something we can always adjust and shift dollars around if we can see there's other areas that may not have spent that much. Could be something that was purchased that was not planned originally back in May. That might have been a new curriculum, or it could be something that should belong in a different category. So if I was to look at what that would be, let's just see. I just see the major purchases that I see, if these mean anything, would be just some Amazon, Cengage Learning. I don't see anything, TCI textbooks. Those were the big purchases. Nothing that really strikes me. We'd have to also look at, if we go down one more page, you have probably 165,000 in non-cap and capital equipment purchases, and that's very light. That could be technology and things for the students, as well as some other capital expenditure plans the school had. But again, nothing here that's striking. So I would keep that all in mind. The other thing, mileage reimbursements.
Yeah,
I think that's probably, I don't know if there was some traveling, but with the inflation and gas prices where they are, that's kind of, it wouldn't be surprising, but I don't know what the travel plans might be for the year or how often they do any mileage reimbursements. But overall, certainly there's nothing here of concern. If we go down even further, we'll get to the balance sheet.
So I could just speak briefly about the expenditures here. The mileage reimbursements, we had a conference in Anaheim and 7 people drove to and from Anaheim. That is not a typical expenditure, but it did occur in July. So it happened this school year. So that's why you see that number up higher than anticipated. And then there was one teacher who ordered a set of class textbooks, and that's why the materials and supplies was higher than anticipated at this time.
Thank you, Josh.
Mhm.
Sometimes you guys will have the specifics behind a certain category. And again, to be $1,400 over a $2,000 budget, when your full budget is,
Yeah.
6 million,
Said and done.
that we want to talk and look at material items that would really
Right.
make a difference. If we look at the balance sheet, you got $1,683,000 in cash. Like I said, we just collected 370,000. The $1,683,000 represents 65 days of cash on hand. If I add that 370 in, we're over 80 days cash. Again, we're in the light period of revenues. We fully expect that to start to build up again. You can see there's still 1.7 million in AR out there.
Mhm.
Part of that could be CARES Act, which just came in September, and there should be some other CARES Act money that will be coming in, I think, in November. So all in all, it's all fine. And on the liability side, if we scroll down just a little further,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
as you can see, total liabilities are 231,000. When you have $1.6 million in cash, that's
Right.
you're 8 to 1. So
Mhm.
overall, nothing here that is any cause for concern. It's a well-run organization. So early in the year, next time we should see some more meat and potatoes in the financials, and then at your December board meeting, which early December, we should be bringing to you the first interim budget for approval. And that's my report.
Great. So quick question, Paul, when the auditors start auditing, do they go through you? Do they go through both SABA and then to DMS? How does that
It
work?
works both.
Yes.
We'll provide a lot of the financial context. Some of it, when there's attendance and things that come from the school side, it's a joint effort.
Okay.
My coworker Ken is with me here today. He's our assistant finance director. He does a lot of the audit work, so we'll get the request list. The auditors will usually designate what's school versus what's DMS, and Ken will provide any of the AP testing, the financials. He does, he does quite a lot of it. I think Josh mentioned last time how quickly Ken responds on those audit requests. So
Mhm.
he makes me look good on a daily basis. So,
I can ditto that. As the person who is the audit person for SABA, I know Ken's always someone I can lean on. He's awesome.
That's
yeah,
great.
I can tell you guys we're very lucky to have him working on this account. So
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate.
Don't
kind words.
blush.
I might turn off my camera now. Thank you.
Well, that's great. Any questions or further questions for either individuals? No? Okay. That is information only. So now we go on to the head of school report.
thank you.
Thank you.
So this month, I just wanted to outline how the community meeting went that we had this past week on Thursday, September 29th. So Renee Mendez is the new city manager for the city of Watsonville. He's been in that role since the summer. And as you're all aware, SABA is requesting that the city council change our zoning classification for the land where our school is from industrial to institutional, and to better promote public discourse about the event. Renee reached out and offered to host a meeting prior to the city council meeting where people would be notified of a community meeting and be able to voice their concerns or their support for this requested rezoning. So once we found out about that, we made sure that the neighbors all had access to the notices and knew where to go. And then I pushed into classrooms, actually all 21 different classrooms, so 3 classrooms per grade level. and made a presentation to students about that the week prior. And so I do a couple grades per day. But the basic idea, I think everybody had kind of a general understanding of what was going to happen, but I really wanted to go into the specifics and more specifically, the best and worst case scenarios. And the worst case scenario, as we're all aware, is if that zoning is not approved, that means that SABA could potentially close. And so while that was a hard thing to discuss, we also wanted to balance that with if the zoning is approved, that SABA can continue to thrive and be a great school for all of our 525 students. So students showed a lot of engagement. They completed a survey at the end of the presentation where they shared whether they drive to school. Well under 94% of our students do not drive to school regularly. So we're still following up with those that do to just make sure we have a plan for anybody that indicated that they do drive to school to make sure that our parking is accounting for that. And then I asked them about their feelings on transferring schools and then whether they would attend the community meeting on Thursday evening. And so the Thursday evening was at the city council meeting in the city council chambers. And it was interesting. They anticipated about 30 people to attend. And it was actually, they filled up 3 different rooms. There was,
Wow.
yeah. Javier said he was going to join us and he was there in the evening. So I'm hoping he can come on to speak from as an audience, but it was great to see the chambers filled up along with the 2 adjacent rooms, packed house only. Obviously many SABA families came to just voice their support for SABA and why it should be rezoned. We went through what some of the issues were that came up at the planning commission meeting and how SABA is working to address the issues specifically in regards to traffic and litter and being a good neighbor, making sure that this is an appropriate space for that and that it's safe here. There were some critical questions brought up about, do we have a safe drop-off plan for our students when they're transported to our school? As well as just some questions generally about how many students walk and ride their bike versus are driven to school. So all in all, I think it was a positive event. It lasted about an hour and a half. And I think lots of people were able to express how they feel about SABA's rezoning. One common refrain that I heard at the meeting, we talked about this at our Saturday meeting afterwards, which was a reflection, was that many families who live in the area, some who have SABA students here, said that there was a gang presence along 2nd Street, which is the street adjacent to Locust where our school is located. And that presence has diminished since SABA has been at this location. And a lot of people
That's great.
expressed gratitude for SABA being there and for that gang presence being diminished. So the following Saturday, here's some student responses from the survey that we sent when I pushed into classrooms. And there was a number of students who not just attended, but they actually got up and spoke, which was beautiful to see, including some even 6th and 7th graders. But we just wanted to see how would they feel. And some of the seniors talked about, they've been here for 7 years. Obviously this would not impact them, but the juniors who would have to finish their senior year somewhere else were, generally speaking, not too excited about having to transfer schools next year. And so you can see some of the quotes on the screen right here. But I think the students, they asked really great questions. They're very attentive. They actually were very curious about how zoning works in Watsonville. So we got to have conversations about that. And I gave them the basics, at least a little that I know. And then at the Saturday community meeting, SABA parents wanted to continue to know about what are the specific criteria of why SABA would not be improved. So they just want to know if the city council decides not to approve it, why? What are the conditions?
What are the reasons? Yeah.
Yes. And so that was continued. That was asked at the community meeting Thursday, and it was asked again on Saturday. I sent out a letter the day of just encouraging our families to be positive and talk positive about SABA. There were some that voices of concern that people brought up PVOSD and kind of put PVOSD in a bad light. And in some respects, I think unfairly so. And so we really wanted to encourage just positive talking about SABA and not necessarily comparing SABA to other schools in the area. And so some of the parents of our students who will work at PBUSD expressed that while they liked the community meeting, they were not really happy with some of the comments that were made about the local school district. Mike, I see a hand up.
Yes, and I just wanted to add, some of our parents who are employed at PVUSD asked the critical question, which is, if the zoning doesn't go through and SEBA is forced to close, how could PVUSD possibly absorb an influx of 520 students when they're already understaffed and overburdened? And I really appreciated that perspective. Even if the comparison is uncomfortable, the reality is logistically it would be very difficult to function in Watsonville without SEBA.
Thank you. And then, so at the end of the reflection of how the community meeting went Thursday, parents wanted to see, okay, well, what are you going to be talking about at the upcoming city council meeting, whenever that's going to be? And I said I would share out some of the arguments that we would make in front of the city council in advance, so they can kind of have some feedback and input there. And they will all have an opportunity for public comment. But I also want to make sure that they feel like what I'm saying to the city council and advocating for the change in zoning is reflective of what the community feels.
So when is that meeting, Josh? And that is when they'll decide and vote on it. Is that correct?
That is correct. The city council will decide and vote at that. And we're not sure. There was, at one point, we thought that it might happen in October. But now we don't know if that will be the case, and it might be pushed to a later date. But the moment I know, I will let everybody know.
Great.
Okay, so that is my update about the community meeting. I'm gonna stop.
Okay, so I have just one more thing. You had mentioned in the very beginning, you changing the zoning from industrial to institutional.
That's correct.
So that, what does that fall under? Because I'm not sure I've ever heard of like institutional zoning. Is that like what schools are and businesses? Is that what it is?
Well, so public facilities. So the post office, security office, schools, all fall under that classification. And then there's sub-classifications, but generally speaking, schools are institutional.
Ah, I didn't realize that. Okay. That was
At least in Watsonville. I'm sure it varies a little bit by.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Seeing none.
Okay.
We are going to go on to the California Dashboard Indicator Review. And that's you again, right, Josh? Since Daniel deserted you. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Ouch, that's my friend you're talking to, Mary Navas. He's still part of the SEBA family.
Absolutely.
With Josh's permission, actually, I'd like to present on the local indicators.
Yes.
So whoever is host, I think Raquel, if you would allow me to share my screen. Included in your packet is what looks like a very dry spreadsheet summarizing our local indicators for the dashboard. And for context, the California dashboard shows a number of indicators for public schools. This includes things like our state test results, our demographics, things like how many of our students have disabilities or are socioeconomically disadvantaged. And it's a way of just making these things transparent to the public. So our results and our information from last school year is now accessible. And you can look at that side by side with any other public or charter, which is also public, school in California. The local indicators are the one area where we report directly, where we can control the narrative somewhat, and we share the LEA's take on what's happening at the school site. And so I did my best to summarize, because it's awful dry as you're submitting this stuff. Included in your board packet is what I'm about to show on my screen here. And it looks like sharing is going. So you only share a handful of priorities. They are numbered, but they're non-contiguous. So you'll notice a little jump where we go from 3 to 6 like magic. Area 1 talks mostly about our teachers, access to curricular materials, complying with Williams, and also our facilities. And in this spreadsheet that's included in the packet, you'll notice a number of areas are rated on a scale of 1 to 5. I've included the scales and criteria for that. So it goes from exploration and research, like we're just dipping our toe in the water, all the way to 5, which would be full implementation and sustainability. So we're doing well, and we can keep this going at a professional level. In terms of the year-to-year change, we did not have any changes that I would consider to be negative. We have not backslid or done anything differently that I think will reflect poorly on our publicly available dashboard. We do have a few areas where there's no net change, and quite a few where there is a positive change. And so in this first priority area, the one delta, as we went from last year, we had 2 teachers who were not appropriately credentialed. We would have reported 0, but just under the wire, we caught 1 issue with a current teacher's credential, and we are working with them to resolve it. Rachel Pedley, in her Director of Human Resources role, has been phenomenal. We have 0 students who do not have access to appropriate materials under Williams, and we have 0 incidents where our facilities are considered to be in poor repair. I will go faster through the other indicators, but I will say that indicator 2 is primarily about our instructional materials and our training for staff. In short, we're doing better because it's our 2nd year with many of these materials. As the board knows, we adopted new materials for most of our instructional areas, and the 1st year is at times a little shaky. We're figuring out how things work. Teachers are becoming comfortable and replanning what they've taught in years past. 2nd time around, anywhere you see green means we reported and believe that we are doing better than last year. Indicator 3, this is about connecting with families, and our indicators were fairly flat. I own part of that, and Raquel can back me up on this. Some of it has to do with parent communication, which I think we've always been very good at. We tried a new platform this year based on reviews from local districts, and it did not work as advertised. And so we made a mid-quarter pivot. For anyone else running a school, we're fans of Parent Square, and we see a lot of potential in Blooms, which we were with, but they are not quite ready for prime time, at least the way that we use those platforms. So I think another year solid on Parent Square, and we'll have a lot more full implementation and sustainability answers. We also, and I want to highlight this, we have a big growth in parent participation, which is a huge theme on our dashboard. And that's thanks in great part to Josh and Raquel's consistent efforts for School Site Council, as well as our ELAC, DLAC. Parents are more involved, they're more present, and our outreach is a lot more focused. One of the indicators asks, what are you going to do to improve your communication and involvement in decision-making? Raquel has a list of about 160 families that she is calling one by one to ask, why aren't you on Schoology checking your kids' grades every week? Why can't we reach you via text or email, one or the other? And if there's any issue in that category, she's just been knocking them out as quickly as I can identify them. Indicator 3, same story, seeking input for decision-making. We've been fairly flat because we've been working well, but we want to get increased participation. If I had done this work after seeing the incredible turnout at our city hall event, I think I would have scored us a little higher, but I do think we're doing very well, and we are nearing that level 5. This skips over to level 6, which is basically summarizing our Healthy Kids report. And students feel safe at SABA, which has always been a strength for our school. We do have a slight uptick in reports of bullying, in-person bullying, over Q1 of last year. And without being too specific, we do have a student who just arrived at SABA halfway through the quarter. She was a late admission, and she accounts for most of those reports. She's having some trouble adjusting, and we're working with her. So if you take out that outlier, we're actually doing better in this area than Q1 of last year. And on to the last indicator, our full inclusion model. it's the same as it's always been. We are turning out scholars who are A through G eligible. They are ready to attend a UC college or university. We're overcoming some obstacles from COVID era learning loss. We're in the middle of fall credit recovery, which is, all of those students that didn't quite make it, or they got a pass instead of
Agreed.
an F. In order to be eligible for those 4-year UC admissions, they're working hard to turn those Ps into an actual letter grade. And on the positive side for that final indicator, we've listened to families, and Mr. Rip has adjusted our master schedule to make room for 2 more AP courses this year. We have 2D art and psychology, which we've never offered. And I've been working closely with both teachers. It's going really, really well. So that's a lot of talking. I would love questions.
So Mike, I have a question. So you talked about parent involvement, and maybe Raquel can address this too. Do you have the same families that always participate, and do you have like the same percentage? Like, do you get 20%, 50%? I'm just curious.
There are certainly some greatest hits, and they often take leadership roles.
Yeah.
I think Raquel could speak to any shifts in demographics from, say, last year's school site council to this year.
I think the biggest difference has just been the meetings on Zoom to now trying to go back to in person. I think we tried to leave Zoom as an option, and we had pretty good numbers. I would say last year, parents participating in our parent leadership meetings, ELAC, DLAC, we had at least 30 per meeting. And so I think this year we've had some great participation, always room for improvement, of course. And I think just getting everybody back into the groove of like being on site and participating in the events and things like that. We just had our parent-teacher conferences, and we had a really great turnout. I'm working during intersession on calling any family that didn't come in for their conference, and there's only like 8 parents out of the whole school, which
wow,
is
that's
incredible.
great.
I know.
That's really
it was great to see. I was like, wow, that's incredible. So I think, like I said, always room for improvement, but I think a lot of our parents, and they're there for a reason, and it shows.
That's great. Thank you. Any other questions for Mike? No? Okay. I think we are at the end of our meeting. That was quick. So I have one quick question, really quick, Mike. So local indicators, these are not CASP, and these are just what your school uses to gauge how your community, your school, your teachers, those are all your local, I guess, assessment tools, if for lack of a better term. Is that how it works?
That's a fantastic term for it. This is the local assessment tool, and I'll put a link in the chat here. So they are part of the same transparency effort by the state of California. Okay. And so CASP, CAST, LPAC, those are on one side. And the way that we can influence those is by doing a good job teaching and supporting our students. But we can't put our thumb on the scale in terms of how we score. That's down to our students. This is the area where we report based on local instruments like surveys or simply boots on the ground experience, how things are going, and then provide that context. Those were all the text heavy areas where our narrative to support our findings. And so that link will take you directly to our local indicators from last year. And if you click on the back to overview button from that page, it would also take you to our general dashboard site that includes those tests.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none. We are at 6:26, and I think our meeting is adjourned. 6:26. That was a quick meeting.